This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast.
This episode, Days of Christmas Past, the Toy Edition. On the last episode, wanted to take a look back at some of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. This time around, we're going to take a look at some of the toys that we all grew up with. You know, long before the PlayStations and the Xboxes, and back when you had to use your imagination as a kid and you actually played outside. Back when toys didn't cost an arm and a leg, but you got more than your money's worth when you played with them. Now, if you were a little boy way back in the day, the one toy you had to have, it was a must-have on every young kid's Christmas list, was the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip.
And here is G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip. G.I. Joe has hands that grip. Fingers you hold open and let close. Hands that hold on with the Kung Fu grip. The grip you help Joe use in self-defense. G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip. The hands that grip.
No, we're not talking about the miniaturized G.I. Joe that they came up with in the late 70s and early 80s. No. These were the 12-inch, fully posable G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. Now, I don't know exactly what use the Kung Fu grip was, but the big selling point was that you could actually grip things with G.I. Joe's hands. So in addition to the huge scale, that 12-inch action figure, they weren't dolls, they were action figures, you had all the accessories that went with them. And with those accessories, all you were limited by was your imagination. G.I. Joe in all kinds of situations, whether they be in the military or not.
This is the rugged G.I. Joe adventure team. Today's mission, rescue stolen idol. Your own G.I. Joe will need the adventure team helicopter. Joe gets it together and takes off. There it is, but it's guarded by a giant cobra. Can Joe get the idol? You find out. Search for the stolen idol, a G.I. Joe adventure. G.I. Joe sold separately.
And what spawned from the G.I. Joe back in the early 50s and 60s became one of Hasbro's biggest sellers, even an animated cartoon, and millions of dollars in toy sales. Now, if you were a little girl back then, the color pink was all you needed to know. Talking about Barbie. Every little girl on the planet at some point has had some Barbie doll. Barbie, Ken, Skipper, Scientist Barbie, Astronaut Barbie, Malibu Barbie.
Take Malibu Barbie and her suntanned friends with their glasses and their towels, where the road never ends in Barbie's new country camper. Look what you get. A picnic setup, a pop-out tent, sleeping bags, a camper kitchen. In Barbie's new country camper, Barbie's country camper home. Mattel, Sunset Dolls, and Barbie's Country Camper, all sold separately.
And all the accessories that she came with. You know, the beach house, the camper, the Corvette. And you know what? Nobody ever knew what Barbie did for a living. How did she make all of her money? You know, there were some folks that were thinking that Barbie was a prostitute.
Did you play Barbies?
A lot of Barbies. My mom doesn't know this, so please don't tell her. I had like a Barbie whorehouse.
As Barbie has evolved over the years, she has come to represent little girls all over the world in just about every ethnicity. When Mattel tried to get it right way back in the day, basically they took the same Barbie doll and painted her black. But now you look at the toy line and it's more ethnically diverse and more ethnically accurate.
So there is a huge movement going on. People, millions of people across the world are standing up to fight against racism. And they're doing this because too often and for such a long time, people have been treated unfairly. And in some cases, even hurt by others because of the color of their skin. This stuff isn't easy to talk about, which is exactly why we have to talk about it.
So Barbie has come a long way, baby. One of the other toys you had to have as a young kid was Hot Wheels.
They're the fastest metal cars you've ever seen. Mattel's new Hot Wheels. Collect them by themselves or get them in wild new action sets like the drag race action set, the stunt action set, the Hot Curves race action set. Get Mattel's new Hot Wheels, the fastest metal cars you've ever seen.
Man, there were thousands of those cars. And if you're old enough to remember one of the ways that you remember that big wheel that you would put your Hot Wheels cars in? Well, maybe not, but you certainly remember the Hot Wheels track. You know, those orange pieces of plastic that you had all over the place in loops and curves and turns and everything. Hours and hours of fun. But woe be unto you if you left a Hot Wheels track laying around.
Is that piece of Hot Wheels track you used to beat me with?
Mm-hmm.
You kept that all these years, huh?
Every time I got ready to throw it out, you'd do something stupid. Oh, yeah. Relax, son. I want you to have it. It's really the perfect thing.
The blessing of Hot Wheels and Hot Wheels tracks was that you had hours of fun. The curse? They made one hell of a weapon for getting your behind whooped.
I mean, there's nothing better than beating someone with something they love. Then I love this because I used to beat you with it.
So from those little miniature cars from way back in the day, the ones that they still sell today, you've got actual car builders that make life-size replicas of some of your favorite Hot Wheels cars. And as we come to the end of 2020, there's still little boys that will collect those cars to this very day. And speaking of cars, man, if you had money back in the day, the one thing you had to have, but it took up a whole lot of room, was one of those slot racing car sets.
This is model car racing, the most popular indoor hobby sport in America today. The cars you're watching now are Thunderjets by Aurora. They're only about 2 inches long. That's HO scale. The next size up is 1/32nd scale, much bigger. HO gives you twice the action in half the space. Look. Cobblestone track, pump track, squeeze track, super looper, Thunderbikes. The control of these cars is in your hands. You barrel down the straightaways, but watch those curves. HO scale, model motoring by Aurora. All this excitement comes in this package. If we still haven't convinced you to go HO, then by all means go to the larger scale. We make that too.
I can still remember placing my car in the little slot and running it around the track and racing against my little brother. And then the little adjustments that you had to make with your cars to try to make them go faster. Now you've got grown men my age, that have rooms dedicated to those slot wheel race car tracks. And they are some of the most elaborate creations that you've ever seen. Something from way back in the 60s and 70s is still something that lives on to this very day. And you know, we had toys back in the day that actually gave you a chance to exercise.
Hula hoops in the spotlight again. Whether it's hula hoop champions on stage or a bunch of people hooping it up on the beach in California. You don't have to be a champion to have fun with a hula hoop. You don't even have to be on stage to have fun with a hula hoop. You can be on a surfboard, or with a group of hoops in a park, or go ahead and be a hula hoop champion. Just for fun, drop everything and pick up on a hula hoop from Whammo.
Like, I don't know too many kids that didn't have a hula hoop. Now, I couldn't hula hoop worth a damn, but I had friends and neighbors that could. They even turned it into international competitions, and now we have world champions. But no matter how much a toy has evolved, the hula hoop has been the same ever since its creation. That big round plastic hoop and that little swishing sound that it makes every time you roll it around your wrist, neck, hands, arms, legs. You know what I'm talking about. Coming up, remember those toys that you could actually break and your mom wouldn't get mad at you? And how about the earliest version of Madden football? And then the one toy that you bugged the hell out of your sister, not that you wanted to play with it, you just wanted the stuff that came from it. All of this and a lot more as we continue to look back at the toys that we grew up with on this Christmas episode of Gunshots Straight from the Hip. Don't go anywhere.
If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you'd hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are available for download on iTunes, TuneIn, and MarkGunMedia.com. And depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how you can be a sponsor of this broadcast, call Mark Gun Media Inc. at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or log on to markgunmedia.com. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm Mark Gunn. In this episode, we're taking a look at Days of Christmas Past, the Toy Edition, talking about some of those old school toys that we grew up with from back in the day. Remember, you can catch this and past episodes wherever you get your podcasts, and if you listen to Apple Podcast, we would really appreciate a rating and a review. That helps the algorithm make us a more noticeable program. And if you're listening on envisionradio.com, thank you. We would love to hear from you too. Get at us at mark@markgunmedia.com. Now, one of the things that I've grown to appreciate as an adult, and I didn't realize this back then, is that when you got a lot of toys, one, they weren't all that expensive, and two, you got a lot of bang for your buck. For instance, now you know about Barbie and G.I. Joe and all of the accessories, right? At the end of the day, relatively speaking, it could cost a lot of money. But there was one of my favorite toys that, looking back on it now, man, I got a whole lot for the money that my mom and dad spent. I'm talking about Johnny West.
It's a stampede. They're in trouble. Will they escape? It's up to you with the Best of the West by Marx. Rush Captain Maddox to the rescue, along with General Custer. Who started it? Ferocious Chief Geronimo on his horse Comanche. And there's Johnny West with his horse Thunderbolt. Jay West drives the buckboard with his sister Janice, while his twin brother, Riding Poncho, fires to turn the herd. There's Jane West. Can she control the covered wagon? The stampede is getting closer. Will Jane and Janice escape? It's up to you. You're the boss of the Wild West with your Best of the West collection. Each figure complete with up to 31 pieces of authentic gear. And look how you can pose Comanche. Get the Best of the West by Marx.
Just like the other action figures from back in the day, and again, these were action figures and not dolls, they came with a plethora of accessories. Additional characters, horses, all kinds of stuff. However, the big value came that when you got the Johnny West action figure in and of itself, it came with a lot of its own accessories. So you were ahead right out of the gate. And then there were those toys that if you actually broke them, your parents didn't care. There was one in particular that I had as a kid that damage was strongly encouraged.
He's a demolition demon in a beat-up Chevrolet. It ain't worth $1, so he wrecks it every day. Now here's Kenner's SSP smash-up derby set. And you can hoot and holler, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Crash, bang, crack 'em up, put 'em back again. Crash, bang, smash 'em up, it's smash-up time, my friend. Kenner's SSP smash-up derby set comes with everything you see right here.
Ah, yes, the SSP. You remember it. Had the black ripcord and that black wheel in the middle of the car. When you pulled that ripcord, You remember that sound, right? That But you had to be careful, because if you got your fingers too close to that wheel and you pulled that ripcord, ouch, no bueno. And I never really knew what the SSP stood for, but I really didn't care. And the only thing I was worried about was missing some of the pieces from the cars that you wrecked. And from what I understand, these toys are big on the collector's market. So if you can find one that's in decent shape in the original packaging, you may have a gold mine on your hands. And then there were those toys that encouraged your artistic side. If you had a pen and paper, with one of them, you were good to go.
Here's what you can do. Wow! Here's what you can do. Wow! A surprise spins out for you with Spirograph.
There are a million fun things you can do with Spirograph, so everything can be different every time you do it.
Hey, here's what you can do. Here's what you can do. A surprise spins out for you with Spirograph.
Well, that's what we did. Wow!
Spirograph from Kenner.
The only thing you had to worry about was losing some of the round pieces. That way you were limited to the designs that you could actually make. And then the other, for a lot of kids, including me, was a lot more fun.
Light Bright, the toy that lets you create beautiful pictures with light. Work with colorful pegs that glow with light, light bulb not included. Make people, animals, things, and with refills, Bugs Bunny or Bozo the Clown. You can make lots of pretty pictures with Light Bright from Hasbro.
I could never do all of those pictures that you saw on the TV commercials. Maybe I just wasn't that talented back then, but that didn't matter because as kids, my family and I had a lot of fun playing Light Bright. The only problem was when you started missing those colored pegs, there seems to be a pattern here. Toys that have lots of pieces, those pieces tend to get lost. Guess that's part of being a kid, huh? You also had toys where it took more than one person to play. My brother and I had a favorite, and it would be a great way for us to settle arguments.
I can be any kid on the block. Oh, yeah? Yeah!
They're slugging it out. A left to the jaw, and...
Oh, my block is knocked off.
But you can press it right back on. It's Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Press this lever. He throws a right, the other a left. Knock his block off. You're the winner.
Wait till next time.
You can Rock'em Sock'em with the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx.
Oh, man, I can still see it right now. The red robot, the blue robot. By the way, I was the red robot all the time. And you make all the noise by hitting the buttons while the robots are throwing punches, and then all of a sudden you hear that sound that ging. And Rock'em Sock'em Robots have made somewhat of a resurgence, and there are tournaments that are happening all over the country and all over the world. And ladies, there is the one toy that we've got to talk about. It's been around since before I was born, and it's still around today. And it was the one toy that your brother would bug you about, even though he never wanted to play with it.
It's Kenner! It's fun! Ah!
Easy bake, fast as you can. Mix 'em up, pour 'em in the pan. Slide 'em in, let 'em bake now. Slide 'em in, slide 'em out, Easy Bake, wow! Only Kenner's Easy Bake Oven Set makes such delicious cakes, cookies, candy, brownies, pizza, pies, and biscuits. It bakes like magic with 2 ordinary light bulbs and has a special cooling chamber. Easy Bake by Kenner.
Ah, yes, the Easy Bake Oven. Light bulb goodies. I remember my sisters making cakes, putting them in that little oven with the light bulbs, and you bugging the heck out of them because you wanted a piece. Came with the frosting and the little bitty baking pans. Oh, yes, and I remember the smell. Part cake, part burning light bulb. I can smell it right now. Be honest with yourself. If somebody put an Easy Bake Oven in front of you right now, and offered to bake you something, tell me you wouldn't eat it. Come on now, especially if it was your daughter or your granddaughter. It's kind of heartwarming to see such an iconic toy lasts for so many generations. But I wonder if they've made any improvements in the recipes for the stuff that you bake out of it. Do you use a 25 watt, a 60 watt, or a 100 watt bulb these days? I don't know. If you do, let me know. And fellas, last and certainly not least, the pièce de résistance for us as kids growing up.
The Jets and Browns, the Chiefs and Colts, the Giants and Bears, the Vikings and Packers, the Rams and Cowboys, NFL, electric, football. You start the action with two complete teams like the Rams and Cowboys in their own colorful uniforms. NFL electric football by Tudor.
Electronic football. Oh, man. The metal football field with the great detail and the cardboard cutouts of the folks in the stands. And you've got all the football players in that styrofoam football. My team back in the day was the 1972 Miami Dolphins. That was the season they went undefeated. You would map out all the plays. You would have the playbook in front of you for the offense and the defense. And you would line up your players according to those plays. And when you hit that switch, they'd never execute the plays that you saw them drawing out. But it didn't matter because the game went on for hours. And in that sound, that magical, vibrating, buzzing sound, it is something that you never, ever forget as a child. And here's the beautiful thing about this. These electronic football games are still on the market. I was in a department store just this week, and they are selling them. And a lot of them are the same size that I remember, and some are even bigger. Now, whether or not they're better, I don't know. Yeah, I'm old school. I like my memories the way that they are. And if it's something that your kids don't know about, it might not be a bad Christmas gift. And it's something for you to bond over. And it's a heck of a lot different than sitting in front of Madden or any other video game. You know, sometimes the old toys are the best toys. Coming up, because this Christmas is scaled back for a number of reasons, including a worldwide pandemic, I just thought taking a look back at a simpler time and simpler toys would be a good idea. There's some toys that I used to play with as a kid that I would love to see youngsters play with these days. I'll tell you about some of them right after this.
This is Mark Gun Media.
Hit it!
One of the biggest accomplishments we've had over the past year is the continued growth of our podcast, Gunshots Straight from the Hip. If you haven't heard it, you can check it out now on our website at markgunmedia.com or on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or the TuneIn Radio app. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Past episodes are available for download right now. Each episode is written and produced from a perspective not heard enough in this medium, the black perspective. However, Gunshot Straight from the Hip is not limited to a black audience. Anyone can get something out of it. We tackle social and political issues, sometimes some slice of life stuff, in a way that's very compelling and unlike any other podcast on the market right now. With my experience as an award-winning audio producer and a reputation for being rather outspoken, Gunshots Straight from the Hip is something you won't want to miss. Over the next year, we want to add more subscribers, with a goal of 1,000 new subscribers every month. If you haven't joined us yet, go to our website, markgunmedia.com, and hit the podcast link. You could also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're already with us, thank you. We just ask that you turn your friends and family on to us. Remember, we have a goal of 1,000 new subscribers every month, and we can't do it without your support. That's Gunshots Straight from the Hip, available right now at markgunmedia.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or the TuneIn Radio app. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.
For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip, our very special Christmas episode, talking about some of the toys we played with from back in the day. Now, I've already talked about some of the biggest toys from way back when, and I was just thinking, with Christmas being scaled back because of the pandemic, we're not able to be with our families as much as we would like to be. Money is tight. may not be a bad idea to take a look back at a simpler time when it comes to toys. And there are some toys that I would love to see kids playing with now. Toys like the wooden spinning tops. Maybe you're old enough to remember them. Wooden tops that you would load with a string. And back in the day, you would have those spinning top battles. These days, there are full-blown tournaments in countries like Japan and here in the United States. We even have world champion top spinners. I'd love to see the average kid play with something like that. Or, when was the last time you saw somebody playing with a yo-yo? Man, you remember some of the tricks from back in the day? Walk the dog, rock the cradle. I'd love to see that come back. And as silly as this sounds, jacks. Yeah, you know the little spiky jacks and the rubber ball? When's the last time you saw somebody playing those? They still make them. Very simple, very inexpensive. You just got to watch out if you step on one of those bad boys. Man, they hurt your feet big time. Real simple stuff. What about a pad and a pencil? Yeah, just doodling, drawing. Simple things like that. There's still a lot of fun to be had with a lot of old school stuff. And with this holiday season being what it is, and people already stepping back and reevaluating their lives and simplifying a lot of things, maybe, just maybe, getting back to something as simple as an old school toy may not be a bad idea. Nonetheless, one thing that I've learned about our kids is that sooner or later, they'll find out about those things that we cherished as kids. I mean, I remember my daughter a couple of years ago got her first record player. And I remember laughing myself silly as she tried to figure out how the record player worked. I wanted to help her, but I didn't because I wanted her to discover that joy for herself. And now she's a full-blown audiophile. Go figure. Hey, listen, you and your family have the most blessed of holidays, whether it's Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, no matter how you celebrate. It's about being together this holiday season, and we will see you on the next episode. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.